Our guest on this particular Insight video is Kevin Stevenson. He was a former Journey Home guest, former Anglican and Charismatic, and he's going to talk about how Augustine opened his heart to the Catholic Church. Please watch this.
I was in seminary at Oral Roberts University, and I was taking a church history class. And at that time, we had to select a church father. They actually said church father. People that had big influence on the early church, and St. Augustine was one of them. And I was like, St. Augustine. I heard his name, but I never read anything about him. And the first thing that came to mind was A City of God. And the book is like this thick, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to read that. So that was the end of that. But lo and behold, as I was coming to the Catholic Church, somebody else said, Kevin, you need to read about St. Augustine. And the reason I was brought to mind, because part of the reasons why my marriage collapsed, I was unfaithful to my wife, if I can mention that. And that was some of the struggles that I had. And the issues of infidelity ran not only, it was historical in the male sides of my family, and I've shared this before, and that was part of my healing. Why is it that I could not be just? Why was I living this shadow life, and all the struggles with that? And those are the things I had to talk about in terms of my darkness and the collapse of my marriage and all the other things that I've done and as a young man. And it even goes back into my family history. There's been a history of infidelity that's destroyed our families in different ways, and coming to grips with some of those things. So when somebody said, you need to read St. Augustine's Confession. Right? And so when I read that, it was almost as if it spoke to me. Because what St. Augustine struggled with, it was mind-boggling that a 3rd century, 4th century person would write the stuff in a book. Much less for me to confess it to a confessor. And so I read his story, The Confessions, and that was my story. And at that time, my wife was Monica. And by the way, coming to the church, St. Augustine was my patron saint. So the Book of Confessions became the book that spoke my life, that talked about my struggle with my appetites, the struggle with my dark side, the struggle with my arrogance, all those things. St. Augustine spoke directly to that in that book. Plus also too, being of African descent, he wasn't African, but he came from the continent of Africa, from North Africa. So that healed a lot of things about people of African descent not having anything to do with church history. So he fulfilled a lot of things. Being an African saint, being a person that was arrogant, being a person that struggled with bodily appetites, having a profound conversion. To me, reading his story, he had a born again experience. That's the kind of language I could talk about. I mean, he was born again, and also and plus his desire to understand what's true. He was a Platonist and so on. So there's this rigor of academic of mental thinking about what is true, and just his mind is just incredible. So I was deeply attracted to St. Augustine. And then, of course, his mother, Monica, is a type of what my wife had to deal with in terms of praying for my soul and me dealing with my own demons, if I can share that. So St. Augustine is very, very dear to me, and I've read the Confessions so many times. It's a wonderful book. And I read the latter part of The City of God. I couldn't deal with the first part, but I deal with the latter part, and his treatise on the kingdom of heaven. It's just marvelous. It's just incredible. So he's my patron saint. He was probably the one probably prayed for me to come into the Catholic Church, being from the continent of Africa, dealing with appetites. St. Augustine, I resonate with that saint, and I believe in the Eucharist. He's praying for me.